You know, there are some names from history that just echo with this sense of wonder. And Palmyra, it's definitely one of them. For literally centuries, this ancient city, this absolute jewel in the Syrian desert, has just captured the world's imagination. So let's dig in and find out why. I mean, just look at this. Rising right out of the Syrian desert sands, these aren't just a pile of old rocks. No way. This is the ghost of a massive, thriving city. It was once a critical hub of the ancient world. We're talking a place of unbelievable wealth, groundbreaking art, and some serious power. But then, in 2015, the world just watched in absolute horror as this piece of our shared human heritage was deliberately, systematically destroyed. Palmyra was suddenly all over the news again, but for the absolute worst, most tragic reasons imaginable. And that destruction, it was a real shock to the system. It made us all step back and ask, okay, beyond the stones and the sand, what did we really lose here? What was the treasure that was taken from us? And to even begin to answer that, we've got to understand what Palmyra was all about in the first place. So, let's start there. To really get a handle on the story of Palmyra, we first need to face the sheer scale of this modern tragedy. I mean, the destruction was just methodical and gut-wrenching. You see the list here. The iconic Arch of Triumph, just reduced to rubble. The incredible Temple of Bel, which was this amazing blend of architectural styles, was dynamited. Dynamited. After standing for almost 2,000 years. The Tetrapolon, the Tower of Elabel, just gone. These weren't just buildings, you know. They were irreplaceable pieces of our shared human history.
Yeah, the loss is just immense. But, to really feel it, to understand what was wiped away, we need to go back. Way back. Let's see how Palmyra became this jewel of the desert to begin with.
So, what was Palmyra's secret sauce? It was pretty simple, actually. Location, location, location. It was perfectly situated in a desert oasis, which made it the essential pit stop for huge trade caravans traveling along routes like the Silk Road. We're talking about the superhighway connecting the Roman Empire with Persia, India, and all the way to China. But hold on, this was way more than just a truck stop. It was a massive, powerful city-state. At its absolute height, you had over 200,000 people living here. That's a straight-up mega-city for the ancient world, and it was seemingly plopped down in the middle of nowhere. Incredible. And all that trade, it brought in just mind-boggling amounts of money. And what do you do when you're that rich? You build. The Palmyrans built on a truly epic scale. Take the Great Colonnade. This was their main street, over 1 kilometer long, just lined with hundreds and hundreds of these massive, beautifully carved columns. You can even see how wealthy they were in the way they honored their dead. The city's elite built these unbelievable tower tombs. I mean, some of them were 4 stories tall. They were basically lavish family mausoleums, designed to last forever, out in the so-called Valley of Tombs. Okay, so Palmyra was rich, super rich, but it was so much more than that. Its real treasure, the thing that gave it its unique soul, that was its people, and this amazing culture of fusion they created. Think about it. Since it was a crossroads for all these goods, it naturally became a crossroads for people and ideas. So their culture became this fascinating mix. At its core, it was Semitic, rooted in local Middle Eastern traditions. But they also soaked up and remixed all these influences from Greece, Rome, and Persia. What they ended up with was a totally unique hybrid culture, something you couldn't find anywhere else in the entire Roman Empire. And you can see this blend in everything they did. For example, their language was Palmyrene Aramaic, a Semitic language. But then you look at their art, like this amazing funerary bust, and it looks like it was carved in Rome. It's wild. They were literally speaking in one culture and sculpting in another.
So this wasn't just a city where different cultures lived side by side. No, they were creating something entirely new. A single, unique culture forged in the desert. The people themselves were a mix of Amorites, Arameans, and Arabs. They were all bilingual, speaking Aramaic at home and Greek for business. Even their government was a hybrid, mixing a Greek-style council with their traditional tribal elders. This incredible adaptability, that was their superpower.
And a city this powerful, this unique, well, it was bound to produce some extraordinary people. And it did. It produced one of the most powerful women in all of ancient history, and her story is the dramatic climax of Palmyra's. Okay, so picture this. It's the 3rd century, and Palmyra is at the absolute top of its game. Queen Zenobia takes power, and she is not content to just be a client of Rome.
Not at all. In 270, she does the unthinkable. She rebels. She goes on to conquer Egypt and a huge chunk of the Near East, creating her own Palmyrene Empire. She was directly challenging the might of Rome. It was an incredibly bold move, but unfortunately it wasn't going to last. By 273, the Roman Emperor Aurelian showed up with his legions and her rebellion was crushed.
And Rome's revenge was brutal and total. Aurelian's army sacked the city, and just like that, Palmyra's golden age was over. It came to a sudden, violent end. It never got that glory back. The wealthy families who had built the city were gone, and it started a long, slow fade into history.
And that brings our story right back to where we started. Full circle. From that ancient destruction by the Romans, all the way to the recent modern destruction, and now to the incredible efforts to restore it.
So, yeah, after the Romans left, Palmyra pretty much faded away. For hundreds and hundreds of years, it was just a small village living among these incredible ruins. It wasn't really until the 1900s that serious archaeological work began, and the city's lost wonders started to be revealed to the modern world all over again.
So how are people responding to the recent destruction? Well, it's this amazing global effort, and it's happening on a few different fronts. First, there's digital preservation, teams creating super detailed 3D models of everything that was lost. Then there's the restoration of actual artifacts, with experts carefully putting shattered pieces back together. And the big long-term goal, of course, is to actually reconstruct some of the key buildings on the site itself.
And make no mistake, it's a monumental task. This is a worldwide effort to put a history back together, a history that wasn't just forgotten, but was intentionally smashed to pieces. It really says something about the resilience of human culture, right? It's this powerful idea that what we create, we can also fight to save.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. We can rebuild an arch, we can put a statue back together. But can you ever truly rebuild a city's soul? That one-of-a-kind identity that was forged from centuries of different cultures mixing together, can that ever really be brought back?